Oh, hi there. Thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to get into the papers, and I welcome aboard political scientist, director for the Center for European Studies, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Doc, good morning. Good to have you for another Wednesday.
Good morning, Ben. Good to be here.
I hope you're doing well.
Very well. Very well.
We bless the Lord. Are those some of your chickens? I know you're a farmer, an animal husbander, if you like. Are those some chickens you're rearing, or is it just neighborhood chickens getting into our video?
We'll talk. We'll talk.
I still owe you that visit to see your fish farm.
You do, yes. Make yourself available, and you'll be happy. Yes.
So what is it that is it tilapia? Is it cat? I think it's catfish, right? It appears we just lost Doc there. He is a farmer. Yes, you probably didn't know that aspect of what he does. We'll try to reconnect with him and just start off on that lighter note before we get into the papers. But this morning, as we try to reconnect or establish that connection once more, we'll be looking at the Daily Graphic, the Ghanaian Times, the Daily Guide, the Finder, Republic Press, Ghanaian Publisher, The Custodian, among other papers. Interesting stories we've lined up for you. And maybe we'll start with this one. When Doc gets on board, I would like to ask him about the cedi and its current state as it falls to over 11 to the dollar. And we'll also look at that. We'll explore that interesting question of Freddie Blake, former chairman of the MPP, actually representing Aisha Huang. There are so many dynamics to it, and as a student of law, I can look at it from two different angles. The angle of the message this conveys to the ordinary person, but also the angle of purely professional work. You get it? So there are two different opinions on this one, and I think I side with both, but we'll find out what Doc has to share on those. In the meantime, using debt repayments to finance climate actions. Time to act now. Oforiatta rallies G24. I'm talking about the Minister of Finance, Ken Oforiatta, who was called on the group of 24 developing countries, popularly known as the G24, to champion the rollout of more debt for climate swaps in order to address the dual crisis of climate change and rising debt. He said that would help the countries, predominantly emerging and frontier economies, build economic resilience among climate-vulnerable countries. Quote, "The time to act is now, and I call on the G24 to champion the rollout of more debt for climate swaps in order to address the dual crisis of climate change and rising debt in order to build economic resilience among climate-vulnerable countries." Mr. Oforiatta said when he addressed the G24 ministers and governors meetings as part of the ongoing International Monetary Fund and World Bank annual meetings. At the Climate Change Conference, that is COP15 in Copenhagen, and you should know because now we're at COP27, billed for Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. At that event, COP15 in Copenhagen, Denmark, in 2009, developed countries committed to collectively mobilize $100 billion annually by 2020 for climate action in developing countries. However, that target has always fallen short significantly. Debt for climate swaps are therefore an emerging innovation where partial debt reliefs are offered countries on condition that the debtor commits to undertake climate-related investments. So basically, it's a call on these countries to provide, first of all, to live up to the promise they made, and then especially to vulnerable countries, particularly vulnerable countries like most of the countries in sub-Saharan Africa, I beg your pardon, and Ghana inclusive. So Mr. Oforiatta said climate change had over the last 2 decades wiped out a fifth of the wealth of climate vulnerable countries, including that of G24 members, including Ghana. That, he said, meant that vulnerable countries had lost approximately $525 billion because of anthropogenic global warming, which is a global warming attributable to human activity as opposed to the natural climate cycle. All right, so that story done and dusted. Let's get into other stories. NPA finds 9 oil companies for illegal acts, and then 8 witnesses to face Aisha Huang in court. Both of those stories on page 13. So let's quickly gallop towards page 13. Let's get there. There we are. Okay, so the National Petroleum Authority has fined 9 oil marketing companies some 2.215 million Ghana cedis for engaging in illicit third-party trading of petroleum products and unlawful lifting of petroleum products. The companies include Bello Petroleum, Jas Petroleum, Oval Energy, Cross Energy, Safety Petroleum, and Santol Energy. The rest are Rise Globe Energy, Scion Energy, and Seago Energy. A statement issued by the Corporate Affairs Directorate of the NPA in Accra yesterday said the companies had to pay the fine immediately. It said failure to comply with the sanctions would attract an additional 1-month suspension of their operations in the petroleum downstream industry. But then let's get into the bit about Aisha Huang. 8 witnesses to face Aisha Huang in court. And the Attorney General, Godfrey Adame, is seeking an expeditious trial of the alleged illegal mining kingpin and Huang, aka Aisha Huang. At the Accra High Court yesterday, the AG indicated the readiness of the state to start full-scale prosecution of the Chinese and informed the court that he had lined up 8 witnesses to make the prosecution's case. According to Mr. Dame, his outfit had filed 4 witness statements and 18 other pieces of evidence as parts of its disclosures. He then prayed the court, presided over by Justice Lady Alsay Marfo, to give the prosecution 1 week to file all the disclosures and also consider hearing the case on a daily basis for an expeditious trial. Justice Marfo remanded the suspects and adjourned the case to October 24, 2022 for a case management conference to allow the AG ample time to file all the needed disclosures. Present in court to witness proceedings was the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapo. Anyway, so those are some of the major stories making the news as far as the Daily Graphic is concerned. There's also Defense Exhibition Conference underway in Accra. There's girls advised to be assertive and confident as the commemoration of International Day for the Girl Child takes place. Former Group Undum staff appeal for release of Provident Fund. And on the back page, let's do some sports. Pride History. Homegrown coaches lead Africa's campaign. And that story there, of course, there's Rigobert Song in Cameroon, Jalel Kadri in Tunisia, Otto Addo from Ghana, and Alu, in fact, Cisse from Senegal. So 4 major coaches leading 4 major teams on the continent to the World Cup. Doc, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for the little break.
Not a problem, not a problem. Technology does its own thing. I was just asking very quickly, so we can get past that. What is it that you fish? Is it catfish or tilapia?
Catfish.
Catfish. Catfish. About how many do you have? I mean, we're talking business here. How many tanks do you have?
About 2,000 for now.
About 2,000 of them?
Yeah, but very soon you're going to get about 4,000 brought on board. Yeah.
So for someone who may be thinking, look, these are hard economic times, is that a viable thing to start? How cost intensive is it?
Oh, it is not that expensive to start with, but it's a lucrative business and it can really be done anywhere, you know. And so I will urge people to go into that as we support ourselves and support our state. It's a useful venture.
Doc, I think we should be partnering on this one. But just to wrap that conversation,
yes.
How long have you done this?
I started off last year, and I'm seeing positive signs. I hope we can replicate it elsewhere to give jobs to our people and provide food and support for our society. Yes.
I was just pushing you on that because, like I said, I'm sure many people would be looking at other means they can use to rake in some money. And obviously...
Yeah, it is one way, sure way by which people can support and all that. So, the process can help ourselves. Yeah.
Let's get into the Daily Graphic. So 8 witnesses to face Aisha Huang in court. I just wanted your take. So the trial judge made it clear yesterday that, look, this bail thing is not going to happen, Mr. Lawyer. You've tried it before. You bring it again. I'm going to quash it. And that was an interesting, bit in court. But another twist is the fact that Freddie Blade, former chairman of the party, is in the thick of things representing Aisha Huang. Now, there are two angles people have looked at it from. That, look, if government is committed to the fight against Galamsey, we shouldn't be seeing top figures. I mean, let it be other figures, but top figures in government representing her. But the other aspect is that he is a lawyer, he is professional, and as a lawyer, you are free to represent anybody. So for those who say, okay, yes, but maybe on the back of principle and where the party is leaning towards the fight against Galamsey, he shouldn't have taken it up. And others say there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Where do you stand on this?
From the legal perspective, he has committed no wrong. He can defend everybody, including people who have been accused of committing murder and all that. All right. So there's nothing wrong in that regard. But there's a political cost to it. And then the political cost is the perception people will have about the government with a fight and all that. So that is the politics of it. But beyond that, he has committed no wrong. It is within his legal right and then within his professional right to defend any human being who has been accused of something in court. That's it. But how people perceive this is going to be a function of how they vote in an election. It's going to be a function of how they see the government as you put it, in the fight against that problem that we have in this country. But professionally, he's done nothing wrong.
And I agree with you. I mean, it's from both angles. You really can't fault a man too much when it comes to these bits. Ghanaian Times newspaper: President urges Africa's military to combine efforts to deal with continent's insecurity. Court refuses Aisha Huang bail again. And GHCCI demands 10 billion Ghana cedi debt arrears owed by government for work done by members. I had done a story earlier about the MPA slapping 9 OMCs with 2.2 million Ghana cedis in fines. That is over third-party trading, unlawful lifting of petroleum products. And there was also 80 more foreign nationals in police grips at Kenyasi Duase. So let's get to page 3, then we'll go to 16 and 17. So 80 more foreign nationals in the grip of the police at Kenyasi Duase. 80 more foreign nationals said to be in fraudulent online businesses were at the weekend arrested by the Tafo Pankrono Divisional Police Command in Kumasi. They were busted at Kenyasi Duase in the Kwabre East districts of the Ashanti region. Out of the number, 9 were females, all from Burkina Faso, and the rest of them from Nigeria and Niger. While the females have been kept at Kenyasi police custody, the rest were kept at the Tafo Pankrono Divisional Police Command. They were all said to be living in a chamber and hall apartment in the area. The reason I bring this up, I think recently, just around the Achimota enclave, there was an arrest, a swoop on quite a number of people, I think about 40 or 80 of them, who had just arrived from, I think, Niger. But the truck that had brought them had unfortunately left. It appears, I don't know whether it's just how porous our borders are, but it appears these nationals can come in, and quite a number of them, of course, there are so many doing genuine business in the country, but quite a number of them are up to no good. How do we deal with this, Doc?
All that we need to do is that the institutions must work. They are paid to do a service. We want to see that. Why am I saying that? Because if you look at the Nigerian story, it surprised me that they came through all our borders and nobody saw them in terms of the security people, none of them, immigration, police, national security, and the rest of them. Nobody saw them. My worry is that, one, it creates a certain problem for us. And the problem is that you have seen in recent times how Ebola is ravaging some parts of Africa. If we don't take care, the time we realize some of these people have entered this country. And then you can understand the trouble we are going to put ourselves in. Two, this is the era of terrorism, that you don't want to leave any stone unturned with regard to security. So a thing of this nature, poses a problem to some of us that, hey, if we don't take care, people will, enter the system and create problem for us. And three, it also tells you that anything can cross the border, and that is not good enough. We believe that the security are working 24/7. I have no doubts in my mind. But some of these lapses can cost us dearly. We want them to take a second look at that and step up their game. And that is the way to go.
Let's get into other stories. Let's turn to page 16. But before we go there, I saw this interesting article. Study, steamed ginseng treats colorectal cancer, improves math skills and vaccine effectiveness. So what we like to call ginseng. So steamed ginseng treats colorectal cancer, improves mathematical skills and vaccine effectiveness. You might want to check out that article on page 9 of the paper. I don't know the author or anything, but I just found the article interesting. Page 16, President urges African military to combine efforts to deal with continent's insecurity. And President Akufo-Addo has called on Africa's military to combine their capabilities to counter the insecurities that plague the continent. According to the president, the link between transnational organized crime and terrorism was a complex and multifaceted phenomenon, posing a concrete threat to international peace and development of states. Of course, he said this at the opening ceremony of a two-day International Defense and Exhibition and Conference, IDEC 2022, at Burma Camp. Just because you've been talking, Doc, about the threat of terrorism and how the president links this bit, is it practical, though, in terms of combining efforts on the continent militarily? Is it feasible? Is it something that currently we can start engaging on?
Oh, it is feasible. Security people have worked together across, the globe. Wherever they are, they share information and then they compare notes. That is how they've operated over the years. And I don't think that this is a time that they want to, stay away from this type of exercise. They should continue to do it. But you see, they need resources. Sometimes when you see budget giving to security people, it's nothing to write home about. They need strong support in terms of logistics, in terms of resources to work. What is more is that we want to also see, the president talks about transnational crime, talk about terrorism as some of the things that work against our security on the continent. That is true. It is beyond doubt that it is the truth. But what is more truthful is that we need good governance. One of the things that have created insecurity for Africa is bad governance, where people rule without recourse to law, where people rule anyhow, and that gives open the floodgates for soldiers to come in and do all manner of things. They need to up their game. I'm talking about civilian authority and rule so that.
We appear to be losing Doc one more time, unfortunately, but we'll try to get him back, and hopefully the connection will be a bit more generous to us. Let's get into the Daily Guide newspaper now, and as and when he connects with us, there are some stories I would like to run by him. Some of the other stories here we've already taken a look at, but other stories to highlight. Jury ready for Kaswa teen killers, if you remember that story. Well, they're finally going to court, and they're going to face the full rigors of the law, hopefully. And the killers, of course, in quotes. So we'll see what the law courts have to say eventually about what happened. But GRA locks up China Mall and others, story on page 3. Another interesting story per the caption here. Minister chases multimedia over Galamsey story. Let's get into those very quickly. So, enforcement officers of the Ghana Revenue Authority yesterday closed 4 branches of the China Mall shopping centers in Accra. A similar action was taken at the Palace Mall in Accra as well. The shopping centers were said to have failed to comply with the e-invoicing system for the value-added tax introduced by the GRA, that is the EVAT. The GRA rolled out the e-invoicing system for VAT collectors from October the 1st, 2022 for 600 large taxpayers that generate more than 90% of the VAT revenue. Unlike the manual system, the e-invoicing system allows the GRA to monitor live transactions in companies where it has been deployed. So you could call it in real time or in close to real time. Close to real time. And live transactions in companies where it has been deployed, thereby making it impossible for taxpayers to either under-invoice or avoid the payment of VAT. When the officials first visited the Spintex branch of the facility, it was not in operation, but GRA said they suspected management had information about the action. Let me bring you some more details of that story. It's on page 6. It continues from there. And Joseph Annan, Area Enforcement Manager of the GRA in charge of Accra Central, explained that the authority had been engaging management of some selected businesses on using the system, but most of them had failed to comply. He warned that though the seals had been fixed, any attempt to take those off constituted an offense against the law, and until the right things were done by the management of the shops, these would remain closed. But then let's get into that story about a minister supposedly chasing multimedia over Galamsey's story. So Western Regional Minister Kwabena Ochre Darko has denied any involvement in illegal mining, otherwise known as Galamsey, as claimed in a report carried by My Joy Online, a subsidiary of the Multimedia Group. Of course, you know where the allegations come from. The minister, in a letter addressed to the media house, argues that the allegations were made against him in the story were false, baseless, and aimed at courting public disaffection for his hard-won reputation. The minister, through his solicitors, is therefore demanding a retraction of the story and a written apology. So here's the bit. We know about the allegations by the chief of Dumping, Pepesa, and he made it categorical in terms of those whom he felt were engaged in Galamsey, aka illegal mining. Of course, the Western Regional Minister, the MCE, and of course the Member of Parliament for Takwa in Swayim, but will allow the law to take its course on this matter. What is of interest for me, though, is the Lands and Natural Resources Minister. While he talks about the law taking its course and all of that, he singles out his deputy, George Mirkuduka, and says that he is confident he is not involved in all of that. Like some others have said, maybe we should just let the law take its course. After all, Mr. President has said, if you're found culpable, he is not going to protect you, not going to defend you. So why not allow the law to run its course? And then we shall find out whether these gentlemen, as per the allegations, are free of any error, free of complicity, or whether, in fact, they have their hands in any pies. It's up to the law to decide, not up to me. So, and we will always expose whatever has to be exposed. We'll do our work. That one, anybody can be certain of. We shall do our work without any fear or favor. Anyway, so Doc, welcome back. You came back right on time. I just wanted to run by you. I'm sure you've heard of that incident regarding Western Regional Minister Kwabena Ochre Darko, the allegations that he, who is a Western Regional Minister, together with the Member of Parliament for Takwa and Swayim, who also happens to be Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, and Benjamin Kessie, MCE, that they are involved in Galamsey. Today, in the Daily Guide newspaper, the Western Regional Minister is calling for, he is saying that he has nothing to do with Galamsey. He is saying, he's even calling for a retraction from the Multimedia Group. But of course, the chief of Dumping, Pepesa, who actually made that known on the Super Morning Show some days ago, stands by his claims and whatever evidence he has. Your quick reactions to that when it comes to the fact that the president says, don't get involved in Galamsey, but more and more we seem to hear of people in establishment, apart from Akunta Mining, and which the OSP is investigating, tied to Chairman Wuntubi. What is your take on this matter?
If you look at the case we are talking about the minister, the MCs, and the DC who are alleged to be involved in the matter, I think that at this level it's an allegation. So I don't want to go into it because I don't have the full facts. I have not heard from both sides. So let's leave it. When whoever has been accused must be able to defend himself, and then we'll know where the truth is. But on a more important aspect of it is the issue of Galamsey. I am not happy the way we are going about things. It appears to me that we are paying lip service to it, but it's a real threat to this country, a real threat. Why am I saying that? If you look at the effect of Galamsey on the ecosystem, it is a lot that we need to sit down and think properly and then shy away from these activities, because it has implication on food production, it has implication on health, and it has implication on international politics. If you look at neighboring countries, I listened to one of your networks and they were talking about the fact that at a point in time, the water flowing from Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire, they had to shut one of their dams and all that. This thing can create unfriendly relations and all that. And then the more important aspect is that a time will come, we'll not even have water to drink. And can we survive it? I think that government must be firm. And then people who have been accused in government must be prepared to expose them or call them to order so that this thing stops. And then we have given the government the power to enforce rules and regulations. So I'm surprised the approach of government and all that. It appears to me that the government is not ready to fight the battle, but they should remember that they have to leave a record, and that it is this record that they will stand on the next election and future elections. It is an early warning that we are giving them. Let me just say it's a caution, and that the earlier they did the right thing, the better. Otherwise, I'm telling you, this thing will become one of the important issues of consideration for the next election. I can say without fear of contradiction. I want to touch on the very thing that I was talking on, which I went off about the president talking about transnational crime and then terrorism, which undermines security of Africa. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But what is more important is that civilian government must govern according to what the dictates of good governance. We don't want any bad governance, because that is the avenue through which soldiers take advantage and come and misgovern us. We want government to do the right thing, and we as people must also stand up and fight against any illegitimate attempts to undermine democracy in Africa.
Right.
I am a student of democracy, and I will remain so forever. It doesn't matter how long democracy gives us the dividends of democracy, but I know that is the best system of government. So all that we have to do is that we need to be vigilant, because it is nothing but the price of liberty. We must stand up and make sure that our leaders are held accountable, and that if they don't perform according to the dictates of good governance, in the closest election, we throw them away without fear.
I've always said that our democracy should count. Democracy goes by certain tenets. It has certain deliverables, and we must see the deliverables of democracy. But thank you. Very important point you've made there. Tied to that Galamsey story, two other stories. There are just two things I'll look at, but I have no links to Galamsey anywhere. Mreku Duka, the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, says so. That's in the Ghanaian Publisher newspaper. All of them have denied, but let's see what will be evinced by way of evidence. But tied to that, Galamsey, 2 jailed 20 years each. We were unemployed and hungry, they pleaded with the judge. And the two here, Ayodele Jackson and Benjamin Obin, the convicts. So that story is on page 2. Let's take a quick look at it, and we'll do one more story from Republic Press, and it's done. So a Takwa Circuit Court judge, Hathia Amamenu, has sentenced 2 Nigerians to 2 20-year prison terms for engaging in illegal mining, commonly known as Galamsey. The terms will run concurrently. The convicts, Ayodele Jackson and Benjamin Obin, were arrested at Bipwase near Prestia in the Western region. The 2 men who were sentenced on October 7 pleaded guilty to the charges with the explanation that they were unemployed and hungry and had only resorted to the Galamsey work as a means of surviving. Of course, we know about what the law says when it comes to Ghanaians, but when you're a foreigner engaging in these, then matters take a different turn. I also want to add this very interesting story. Man missing for 3 days, found with hand trapped in rat hole. Basically, You can call it Kisie. He was following that. Residents of Sifi Apampanaye. Okay, so Sifi Asempaneye, my apologies, on the Western North region, were thrown into a state of shock when a 64-year-old man, Ejose, who was declared missing for 3 days, was found in a bush, trapped in a rat hole. According to reports, the man was found in the bush with his right hand trapped in a rat hole after he was believed to have been chasing the animal. Ejose was said to have left his home for his cocoa farm on Saturday, but did not return. He's currently undergoing medical attention at the Sifi Asempaneye Government Hospital. I don't know whether it's the times that got him to do that or just a taste for bushmeat, but his hand was caught there for 3 days. That's an interesting story. So Galamsey and 2 20-year terms for the Nigerians and the story. That's how we'll wrap, Doc. Over to you.
I will look at the first one is a human interest story about hunting and all. There's a price to pay for some of these things, so I will leave it at that. But if you look at those who have been jailed for illegal mining, all right, it should tell us that once you cross the line, you have your fingers bent. There's no two ways about that, and you cannot use unemployment as an excuse to commit a crime. If you say so, then my understanding is that, yes, I am unemployed, so I can even engage in armed robbery to make a living. Is that the case? No. This also brings to the fore the issue of the fact that government must also make sure that they create employment. I'm not saying that it is an excuse for robbery, for committing any crime, no. But that we owe it a duty to ourselves as a government. Any government that we have in this country must make conscious effort to create jobs, because we are getting large army of unemployed youth, parading our streets and roaming in town. It's not good enough. It is a threat to the country's security. The earlier we took an important decision about this, the better. We need to walk the talk. There are a lot of talk shops. We need to shy away from that and do things that realistically get people jobs so that they can put body and soul together. Let us remember that our failure to do this will have the problem compounded year by year, because we train a lot of people in our universities and other schools and all that. What are they coming to do? We need to look at it holistically and address it once and for all.
Right. Doc, always a blessing having you. We wish you the very best of this Wednesday morning.
I'm grateful. I wish you a good day.
And I wish you more catfish.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the site.
Yes, sir.
And you will enjoy.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for the invitation. That's actually my former lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana. And now he is director for the Center for European Studies, Dr. Kwame Asante. It's always good catching up with him. It reminds me of the old days. But right before we get into sports, a happy 7th birthday to Berima Kofi Asante Ochery. Berima Kofi Asante Ochery of Jewels of the Millennium School, North Legon. It's from your mom, Mrs. Anita Dolores Asante Ochery of Best Point, and your dad, Engineer Daniel Ochery of Kwewu West Municipal. May God's purpose for your life be established. So you're 7 today, Berima Kofi Asante Ochery of Jewels of the Millennium School, North Legon. From mom and dad, from me, your uncle, and from all of us here, we wish you the very best. May you grow to be a man after God's own heart. On that note, let's get ready for sports. There's so much coming up. You don't want to miss it. Stay.